Uy, nice! Welcome. So I was saying,
Finally.
this is our weekly chill Numan, where with each bucket, we ask the world, bakit? Or why? Hence the name, Bucket nga. We'll probably switch between English and Filipino, so in case you miss something, don't understand something, we speak too fast, di nyo alam na nangyayari, just ask. No pressure, ha? Because the important thing here is we keep asking. Nobody's an expert. We're here to question stuff and have fun. Make mistakes,
Maybe.
look dumb. That's what the questions are for. So for
Kung
tonight,
ano.
we do have our lovely, on time as always, Ultra or Jago in my hand here.
I'm the one who was on time.
On
The
time.
other one wasn't.
And then we
Hello.
have this man, hashtag just John Things.
Hi guys.
Because he is
This time I'm the late one.
he
Hello.
messaged us, we'll see you at 9 and it's now 10 p.m. So again, fun. And the things
Just like
recording the video, they can now see John is late, hashtag just John Things. So for tonight, our planned topic is the concept of sorry. Or asking sorry. So before we begin, John, is there anything you want to
Mm,
share or say?
sorry guys, late ako.
The perfect start.
With,
Sorry
yeah.
agad.
Sorry agad. Yan ang natin.
Siguro tadhana ito. Na
Oo nga.
malilate siya.
Yeah,
Tapos magsa-sorry siya. On the episode that's about sorry.
the universe wants to talk about it talaga. Because next week, you being late won't make sense for music and dance.
Oo.
But for this week,
Yeah.
saying sorry is a part of it.
It made sense. It's the universe conspiring, no, for our podcast to have something.
It is.
May drama.
May
So
sakto
yeah, yun
siya.
lang naman.
So the question is, what is it? What
Is
is
it too
to
late?
say sorry? Is it too late to say sorry? Mamaya na yan. But what is saying sorry? Sige. Ultra, what does it mean to
Uh,
be saying sorry?
I mean, I guess when you dig deep into it, different people will have different uh, conditions or ideas of what sorry is. Uh, to me, I guess when it's you see, that's why I don't like this topic. It's hard. It's hard. Sorry. It's just I don't know. When you do something, you think you did something wrong. You acknowledge it and diba? And you're acknowledging that you did something wrong, and you're asking someone to forgive you for that.
So parang meron siyang two
On a very
sides
basic
to
level.
it. Parang
For
may
me,
personal acknowledgement and then your acknowledgement of the thing. Would you say that?
yeah, yeah. 'Cause for me, I mean, sorry or an apology, diba? An apology. That's well in Christianity, diba? It's three parts, diba? Um, for me personally, it's at least two. No, that that third part, I guess, it depends on your cultural context. But I think really a sorry needs the very first thing it needs is an
Yeah.
acknowledgement that you did something wrong.
Pwede, yeah.
I
John,
think for me yung saying sorry is or at least you say sorry kasi may expectation tas hindi mo na meet. Like may mutual expectation kayo tas alam mo yun, may nakaset na something na hindi mo na meet. Expected nga yun. That's expected of you. That's why you ask for forgiveness or you say sorry. Pero ayun nga. For me yung saying sorry is not just saying it. Dapat may follow through siya.
Yeah.
So, yun yung, at the top of my head, yun yung naiisip ko ngayon.
so parang sorry is not enough.
Yung, more of yung sorry, hindi lang siya word, dapat.
Ah.
may, alam mo yun, may katumbas siyang, hindi tapos yung asking for forgiveness or saying sorry doesn't
Mag-Filipino ka
end
na,
with,
no one's stopping you.
yun nga, hindi siya natatapos sa pagsabi mo lang ng sorry. Yung buong sorry as a concept, dapat may follow through. Parang ganon.
I'm sorry.
So parang may verbal
As
aspect. Tapos may
quoting
action
President
aspect.
EMA.
Actually, hindi ko nga alam kung ano eh. Lalo, I think kasi diba sa may generational differences. Like yung older generation sa atin, hindi sila magaling magsabi ng sorry. But when they say they're sorry, usually through actions lang. Eh kasi yung generation natin very, alam mo yun, dependent on vocalizing things.
Mm.
That's true.
Kaya minsan 'di ba nagkakaroon ng miscommunication kasi yung generation before us usually they're saying sorry na pala by being better pero tayo hindi siya nagta-translate up until explicitly nasabing nag-sorry sila or something.
Diba?
Well,
So,
I'm not sure about that because I mean maybe well going back to what I said earlier, parang yeah, I guess different groups of different generations can have
yeah.
have different meanings to it. Pero like for me, I find that a bit weird because like I feel like an apology is well, it should be a communication. Parang I don't know. Kasi parang if they're trying to be better, pero you're not parang
You're not acknowledging it in the first place. Mali sila, wala acknowledgement.
That's weird for me.
Yeah.
You have to
Pero aminin nyo, ganun yung older gen. Usually they don't say sorry, or at least in my circle. Baka iba sa circle nyo kasi, pero yung hugot ko galing sa, syempre from my experiences, like yung mga boomers and older, iba sila mag-say ng sorry eh.
Yeah. No,
I
I
think
agree with that. Kasi let's say, dati, let's be honest. Sisigawan kayo ng parents mo, kaaway kayo, kapatid, pamilya. Tapos after that, malapit sila like, oh, kain ka na. It's like, oh, may ice cream tayo, diba? Is that saying sorry?
Diba?
Is that sorry?
Yeah.
enough?
Sorry siya.
Yes. Yeah, pwede yun. That can be that's like one. You know, an interesting thing about the word sorry and saying sorry. In ROTC, when I took ROTC, I don't know if it's like this. If it's like this in in all the military, but it's like you're not supposed to say sorry when you do something wrong or when you fail to meet your expectations or whatever. What you say is wait, oh my god, it's been a while, but let me
Bawi
remember.
ako.
Huh?
Sa akin, sa varsity days ko, bawal kami mag-sorry. Laging bawi ako. Yun yung dapat.
Wait lang. What do I say? Oh my god, where was I going with this? There's something specific that we say instead of sorry. Na oh god,
Kaya mo yan.
I can't remember.
Sige, we'll loop back to it. Actually, that's one of the
We have
things.
may mga ganun eh. May mga like military culture. Like instead of I don't know, you don't say I don't know to your officers, to your superior officer, or whatever. You say I'll find out.
Or I'll look into it or something.
When you don't know the answer, say I'll find out. so it's like okay. So you're but basically that means di ko alam. Sorry.
Yeah,
Diba?
actually, like that was something I was planning for later. But since we're here now, like in medicine, saying sorry isn't like there's this level I feel na hindi ka dapat nagsasorry. Like parang sorry, there's no point to saying sorry when there's a mistake. It's more of anong gagawin mo na.
Ayan eh. Yeah, there. I remembered now. You don't say sorry in ROTC or in the military. You say my mistake.
Pero
So
my
may
mistake
account-
is
Which
a
is
lot
interesting.
similar.
Parang it's not. Diba kasi when you say sorry, isn't that that's asking for forgiveness, diba? Or something like that.
Like you
You're
said
Yeah.
asking
kanina. Yeah.
when you say my mistake, you're just acknowledging that you did that you screwed up or something like that, diba? Parang ganun.
But
It's really interesting. Military language in general.
can you say my mistake but not be sorry for it? Kasalanan ko. Pero so what? Diba?
I guess pwede naman yun, no? I mean, maybe there are some things that, diba, you don't really have to apologize for, diba? You don't. I think you mentioned this earlier, earlier, like not during this podcast. Like we sometimes say sorry for the smallest things. Like a lot of things don't really require an apology, diba? Some mistakes don't require apologies.
Oh no.
Sometimes, diba?
Yeah.
Sometimes that it just goes to it just uh boils down to, well, I mean, parang tao lang, diba?
Mm.
Like or whoops, no?
Masasabi niyo na ba na there is a thing as saying sorry too much na nawo-water down yung meaning ng sorry? Kasi, alam mo yun, parang pag lagi mo siyang ginagamit, parang nagiging tramp stamp pa siya if you always say it,
Yeah, I mean,
na nawawalan siya ng bigat.
pero parang
Yeah, I
mas
think so.
complex yun eh. Kasi if you keep saying sorry, tas let's say, the question is, ano reaction mo doon? You're like, oh, sorry ka ng sorry, wala ka mang ginagawa. And at the same time, it depends on the intention. But if the person is trying
Yeah.
their best already, nagkakamali lang, tao lang, diba? Can you fault them for saying sorry a lot?
It depends eh. Alam mo, it boils down sa one relationship and context. Kasi like sa work, hindi naman pwedeng sorry ng sorry ka. Nag-lose na ng millions pala yung company dahil sa mga mistakes mo, tapos sorry ka lang ng sorry. Di ba? Parang, it depends eh.
Yung iba nga taong bayan ng ano eh,
Yeah,
wala
and
nang
it depends
billion
on-
tapos wala pang sorry.
at saka it depends, ano ba, ang hirap eh, kasi are we saying na depende rin sa scale ng effect kung kung
I
pwedeng
think
palagpasin yung
it's-
sorry o hindi. So, depende sa consequence. Ganun ba?
Context based siya, 'di ba? Like you don't know, minsan we don't know what the person is dealing with, or baka minor issue lang, 'di ba? Or is it something ano. So it really depends on, it depends on relationship, 'di ba? Severity, 'di ba? Context, consequence, things like that.
Yeah, pero yun nga, Emman, John brings up something interesting na kung magsasorry lang tayo pag may consequence or because kilala natin yung tao na yun and they know what's gonna happen, it sort of ties to, is it even a good deed? Diba, parang the moral aspect of sorry, is it weighted by you know you're gonna get something in return, the forgiveness, or you're just doing it because you wanna say sorry?
Yung iba kasi ano eh, I've heard people say na, I'll ask for forgiveness kasi one, if ramdam na niya na, as in he's sorry na talaga, pero hindi niya kailangan, kung hindi siya mapatawad ng person, that's okay kasi hindi kasalanan ng person na hurting kung hindi niya pa kayang patawarin yung ng hurt, 'di ba? Or yung naggawa ng deed. So asking, I think alam mo yun, when you're asking for forgiveness or when you're saying sorry, hindi siya dapat may expectation na patawarin ka. Kasi you're asking for grace eh. So parang choice niya kung papatawarin ka niya o hindi.
So
Pero kasi
sorry comes from one side.
Yeah, here's the thing. Ngayon kasi yung mga ibang tao, pag nag-say sila ng sorry, they're expecting na mapatawad na sila kasi nagpakumbaba na sila at lahat. Pero kasi hindi naman ganun kadali yun for some, di ba?
It's different for some people, di ba?
Yeah.
Like I said before, di ba? Some people see sorry different ways. For me, di ba? For me, acknowledgement siya ng acknowledgement that you did something wrong. You're asking someone for forgiveness because of that, diba? But there's some people, diba? But when you say sorry, you don't the person you hurt or the person you apologize to. I don't think they necessarily have the what's the word?
Impetus.
Parang they're not you're not entitled to you're not entitled to forgiveness agad,
Yeah.
diba? Right away. They don't have they're not they don't parang they're not expected, diba? You're not expected to always receive forgiveness from
Mm-hmm.
people. Sometimes di ba baka they're not ready to forgive you yet, diba?
Yeah.
Baka sa tingin nila hindi pa parang hindi ka sincere, diba? Either way, diba? So there are a lot of things, diba, to deal with.
But you
No,
have to
when
be realistically, admit it, as Filipinos, kapag may nag-sorry tapos hindi tinanggap, mas malaking issue yon because you're like,
Yun nga.
bakit?
Oo.
Tangina, nag-sorry na nga sa'yo. Like, kasalanan mo bigla na hindi mo tinanggap. Which is a weird
Actually, may nangyari din
dynamic.
before na meron akong nakaalitan and then my mom told me na, oh, you should say sorry. Kaya ganyan kasi mas matanda yung na-offend ko kahit na, alam mo yun, in my head during that time,
Tama ka.
tama ako. Tapos I remember telling my mom na, ma, first of all, sige, sa culture kasi natin, kailangan nag-sorry kami. Sige, okay, mag-sorry ako. Kasi syempre, may mga nasabi rin akong hurtful. So, mag-sorry ako for that. Pero hindi ngayon. Kasi ayokong pekein yung sorry ko. Mag-sorry ako na to, plastikan. Ano sabi ko? So, alam mo yun, I think sa culture kasi natin, alam mo yun, may thing na parang pagbata ka, kailangan ikaw yung mag-sorry agad, ganyan.
No, I
Tapos
don't-
kailangan tapos yun nga, pag may nag-sorry sa'yo, kailangan
Tanggapin mo.
expected ng
kailangan
magpatawad
tanggapin
ka.
mo, patawad ka agad.
Oo, parang kailangan niya.
Parang part yun
Kaya,
ng dance
bumalik
that
ang
we
mga
do.
kasi.
But like, ganun
I have
eh.
to-
Not even for elders, I feel like, ang sorry kasi natin, because of such the dynamic relationship, yung pagka sama nung nangyari, it's not only in what you say and how you say it, but like the emotional aspect of it. So that when we say sorry, we can say sorry for this part of it, pero yung concept at the heart of it is sorry. Parang let's say, like, alam ko, may na mga nakaaway na akong friends, batchmates, whatever, na parang nagsigawan kami. And you say sorry kasi nagsigawan. But I'm not saying sorry for what I fought for kasi tangina mali ka pa rin eh. Diba? So, it's weird how we lump the sorries together when really pwede ka mag-sorry ng isang part but hindi mo sorry sa isang part. And that's why like, sorry kasi elder ka
Sorry.
or sorry. Diba?
Sorry if you got offended. Sorry if I offended you.
Nako.
Yung mga insincere.
Yan yung mga... Okay, so moving on to that. That's when you have the sorry but. O, diba? You know, I'm so sorry. But,
Sorry ka pa?
kasalanan mo eh. Parang, sorry ba yun?
Diba? If you're not sorry, don't say sorry. Diba? Panindigan mo yan.
True. I mean, it's a weird dynamic of you have to say sorry, but at the same time, meron kang kailangan na social... May social currency ka na hindi mag-sorry. Which is a whole parang dynamic of kailan ka hindi magsasorry. Or even, like, literally saying how to say sorry. Merong sorry but, sorry kasi you got hurt, or in the simplest way, kahit, uy, sorry ah. Tapos kung ganun lang, is that still sorry?
I guess, again, baka for different people, diba? Maybe yes. Diba? Because like, ano, uh, some guys, no? Kaya, papasok tayo sa toxic masculinity. Toxic slash
Bakit?
fragile masculinity. 'Di ba? Parang we don't want a lot of guys, 'di ba? We don't want to parang show weakness, quote unquote, 'di ba? And like parang opening up and being 'di ba? Being apologizing in a way that makes you seem weak in a sense. 'Di ba? Parang I'm sure there are guys that are like that. No, and maybe among groups of guys that are like that, na parang they don't really ano, talk out yung issue, parang but they parang they come to some kind of understanding na oy, sorry. Parang in that context parang "Oy, sorry ano lang yan." 'Di ba?
Sorry,
I think it's
is
also up.
toxic
With the boys, 'di ba?
It's a pride thing usually eh. Kasi, alam mo yun, saying sorry is something, it's humbling yourself eh. Yourself to the other person, acknowledging na ikaw yung nasa mali. And that's hard for a lot of people to do. Even ako, at times, hirap ako mag-say ng sorry even if I feel like I should have. Diba?
And actually, since I mentioned fragile masculinity. I want kaya nga sayang na we don't have a woman with us right
Yeah,
now.
it's supposed to be a
I want
woman
to ask about that.
conversation.
Like, how is it in women's circles, diba? What's it like? Kasi diba, I think for guys, we're like when we apologize to each other, it's kind of like what is it na parang sorry na parang gano'n, di ba? Parang uy, sorry. Parang
Yeah,
it's
and
minimal, di ba?
we don't, hindi tayo nagtatanong ng galit when you say, sorry, and you're like, okay, Paps, no problem. It's parang tapos na. So if there's any females identifying or in the cultural norm, whatever, who have an experience with saying sorry, being trained to say sorry, the social dynamic of being a woman saying sorry, feel free to drop it in the chat because we're supposed to have a woman, but she backed out last minute. She
Like,
says sorry, but yeah. So kulang yung perspective na yun. Ideally, meron
I guess
tayong feminine view.
but I feel like there's an element of like fragile masculinity there because in my experience or maybe like in my experience like when I say sorry to guys, like parang I don't recall instances where I had a very long or very what do you call this, like talagang uh humbling ba humbling myself experience na apologizing to another guy. It's often something like that. Na parang, oy, parang we just, parang we, like, parang bro, diba? Sorry di ka na gagawin yun, no? Parang, pero if it's like, kung if it's the opposite sex or another gender, parang, I recall like very specific incidents na sobrang ano yung apology ko, like yung it's the whole three step thing na parang hey, I know uh I did something wrong. I screwed something up, 'di ba? Uh it's my fault na this happened and uh I want to say sorry and I don't think I've ever had to make like a I never made or spoken a full apology like that to another guy.
Interesting. So parang,
Like like
Ako ano ba? I think I've been fortunate, not necessarily fortunate, more of meron lang ako mga naging friends na as in bros na meron ako na sila pa yung nagturo sa akin how to, alam mo yun, by showing na sila, kunyari meron kaming short misunderstanding, sila yung nauunang mag-say ng sorry, like, ina-acknowledge nila, just we talk about it. So, mas sa kanila ko natutunan yun. So, very happy. Yeah.
so ikaw yung toxic pala sa atin.
Ha?
Ikaw yung toxic pala sa atin.
Grabe. Sabi ko nga, natutunan ko na. So, hindi na.
Toxic puta.
talking about in a non-professional, parang personal level lang because like because I feel like, well, I don't screw up much in life, so I don't really
Sa patong
I,
mayabang,
I,
no?
I haven't really had to
Iba
apologize.
talaga pag magna cum laude, grabe,
What
hindi
a male
nagkaka...
privilege. I don't
Kasi
screw
I
up
think
in life.
I feel like recently lang I've had to. It's only recently where I felt like I've had to make a serious apology for something, but
Yeah.
it wasn't really that serious of an issue. I think no, but for me, I mean, I guess for the people I was apologizing to, I don't think it was that big of a deal. But for me, I thought it was kind of a big deal, and I made an
You made it.
apology. Yeah, but I don't think it was too serious. Like so, I've never had any really serious issues talaga na in a long while. Like probably since high school.
I think, like,
I haven't fought
personally,
anyone since. I haven't really fought anyone.
oh,
Diba? I
may
don't have
nakaaway
enemies.
ka first year college. First month
Really?
of college, may nakaaway ka.
Sino yung kaaway ko?
See, I'll be watching you. Yeah. No,
Ikaw,
but
Ken.
Di ba ikaw yan? Ah, wait.
Shit, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. I think, if I think about it, I might say sorry a lot more. When I think about, like, knowing that how the two of you and my relationship with other people, I say sorry a lot more. That if something happens, as Jago was saying, when I say sorry, it's more like, ay, something happened. Like, oh, you should sorry. Ano mangyari? It's more a reflex. Kasi, coming to mind, may nangyari 2 days ago, and I feel like I did something wrong. And there's a guilt aspect in me where I'm like, should I say sorry to this person? I want to, but I don't know how. So, yeah, it's not as easy as just saying sorry to them. And I don't
Yeah.
think it's, according to my friends, it's not so much a big issue that pwede mong kalimutan lang. It's not, you don't have to say sorry for it. But it's this guilt na parang, it's still kind of bad that it happened. Na sana I could say sorry for it. There's a parang, I
But
wish I could say sorry.
I think if you feel like, I think if you feel guilty for something, di ba? Even if, like, I'm guessing in this context, parang you don't know how they feel about it, di ba? Or parang you feel like hindi naman, it's not affecting them.
It's not affecting them. It was just like,
But
the story
I don't think it hurt.
goes na they we were in the same room. They were listening to something um, very religious in a sense na parang yung mga may kasalanan hindi lang lalaki pati ang babae kasalanan. And I'm like, I was reacting to it na parang, oh, I did not expect to hear that. It's like, wow, that's very religious thing to hear. And my friend was saying, sobrang obvious mo nga mag-react na baka ilang si ma'am. And I'm like, oh, should I say sorry for it? Because, like, I didn't, you know me, I didn't mean it in a mean way. I was just, like, surprised that was the belief people have. I'm not shaming them for it. I'm just like, oh, that exists. Interesting.
Mm.
Is it a sorryable
Well,
offense? To me, yes. But it's not, like, out of my way.
Ako before, very, para ba, mababa yung self-esteem ko before, tas feeling ko, basta sorry ako as in, I'm very apologetic na minsan hindi naman na pala kailangan as you guys were saying, sometimes hindi naman pala siya big deal. Tas parang, ngayon lang ako napunta sa place na, alam mo yun, parang, shit happens. Minsan ganun lang talaga. Minsan, hindi naman siya ganung big of a deal. Minsan nga nagiging big deal siya bigla pag nag-sorry ka pa eh. Kasi
Actually,
una,
nagkaka-drama
wala lang
bigla.
sa kanya. Hindi lang sa kanya ma-realize, ay oo nga, parang offensive yung ginawa mo.
I think, well, I don't know, pero I think that's up to you, diba? Like,
Yeah.
but I think kasi like I was gonna say kanina parang maybe sometimes it doesn't hurt to say sorry, but you might make it an issue. There's always a chance. Yeah, it's like rolling. You roll a one, diba? Then they make it an issue, diba? But if you feel, but I think what's important there is, I think my opinion, be sincere. So if you feel like it deserves an apology, then go for it,
Mm,
diba? Kasi otherwise it might eat at you, diba?
yeah.
But then it circles back to what John was saying na, if I say sorry all the time, tangina, baka isipin mo, hindi ako sincere. Like, you can
Yeah.
be as
No, no, no.
sincere as possible.
It's different from saying sorry all the time, diba? Kasi, diba? Ano natin, I was like, I think I was like John also before. Na I'd say sorry for a lot. Pero it takes parang it takes a realization na there are things you don't really have to say sorry for. You don't have to say sorry for everything. No, you have to realize, parang that's something that people that you'll realize, no, not or if
You
parang if you want
learn
to change
along the
that,
way.
if you want to change that, parang you don't you don't that doesn't change, like, or doesn't it's not something, I don't know if that's something you grow out of unless you realize na why am I saying sorry, unless you reach a point na why am I saying sorry for so much,
Or
diba?
maybe, if I was thinking about it, parang saying sorry a lot is different from saying sorry for the same thing paulit-ulit. So, like, you could say sorry
Mm.
a lot to different people. Like, oh, sorry, natamaan ka. Ay, sorry, nahulog yun. Ay, sorry, late ako. But, if wala kang chance to improve it, parang dun
Mm.
nawawala yung, in a
Yes.
Yung
sense,
weight.
trust connected to it,
Yeah.
maybe?
In the sorry. But yeah, well, no, but what I mean is be sincere about when you say sorry. Like when you feel like, diba? It's also part of that is knowing na when diba na is it worth, is it is this sorryable is this a sorryable offense, diba? Parang ganon na, but if you feel like na, oh my gosh, diba, I did
Yeah.
something and I feel like, and diba, that's a conscious choice. It's not, it's different from on parang subconsciously saying sorry for everything. Diba? Iba yan.
Yeah, and I
Diba?
think um usually when saying sorry minsan may ano rin may level of relationship din siya na parang 'di ba? Parang paano ba?
But
Wait lang, sige go lang. Nawala yung thought ko.
Parang, it has a very, um, sorry isn't just a personal thing, which I think we've been alluding to a lot. It's a very interpersonal thing. So parang in a
yeah.
way,
Yun nga, may
that
relation.
the growing out of it is also learning about the other person. Like example, like pag may minura akong iba, I'll probably say sorry to them. Pero like the two of you, if mapakyo kayo, it's not like I'm gonna say, uy, sorry I called you pakyo. Like, you know where the line starts to be. Diba?
Yeah. Kaya yun nga, very dependent din talaga siya sa relationship mo with the person. Kasi may mga bagay, yun nga, same with Kino, may mga bagay na pag ginawa mo sa friends mo, may understanding kayo na you don't mean anything by it, kaya hindi mo kailangan mag-sorry. Pero pag nasabi mo pala yun sa isang person na hindi mo naman ganun ka-close, baka mag-take siya ng offense. So, may ganong aspect din talaga siya. Parang ganun.
But it makes you wonder, no, why is there an offense with the sorry?
What do you mean?
What do I mean? Parang,
But
why is there,
uh,
kung nag-sorry ka, like we're saying, it becomes a bigger issue. Bakit nagkaka-issue, diba? Ideally, may mistake, nag-sorry ka, tapos na. Bakit may, oh, bakit ka nagsasorry, tangina mo?
nagano. I don't know. Weird.
If I think about it, there are things, that people have said sorry to me for. Or like this. In medicine, or specifically where I'm going, malakas ang ate kuya culture nila. So much so that people call me kuya. You're like, oh kuya, ganito. Ay, kuya, ganito. I'm like, You're 1 year younger than me. I don't call me kuya. I don't think of it as something like kuya to me is 5 years or older dapat na meron kang older relationship. But for like these young people just calling kuya kuya, I'm like, no, don't call me that. And every time they do, they say sorry to me. And I'm like, no, just don't. Like, I don't have to keep explaining myself to you that I don't want you to call me kuya. And I guess if I'm asking myself the same question, it goes back to the more you say sorry for things, the more it tells that person na hindi mo alam yung norms. Hindi mo siya kilala. Hindi kayo kapwa-tao. Kasi wala kang zone of mutual understanding of what is and isn't sorryable. So parang mas nakaka-irita yun na we have a good enough relationship for you to say sorry, but not good enough to know you don't need to say sorry.
Yeah. I think it's something na I guess, I hope it comes with aging. Na, alam mo yun, you figure things out eventually. Yun nga, yung mga bagay na maliit lang pala, yung mga bagay na malaki pala. So, yeah. Feeling
Well,
ko,
yeah, again, it depends iba, person to person. Iba ang ano eh. Iba ang
totoo.
standards. Iba ang ano. So I'm fine with people like saying sorry for like small things kasi we don't know each other. And so you don't know how sensitive
Mhm.
or that person is, no? So, 'di ba? It's not for me, it's not annoying, 'di ba? Sige, I'm like, sige, we're not close, 'di ba? So, we don't really know our
Our boundaries, etc. Ganyan. Tolerances.
Pero kung di nga kayo close, baka di ka mag-sorry eh. Kasi anong pakialam mo sa kanila?
I guess it's like there's like a zone, I guess. Like it's a relationship parang if you're too distant, parang I don't have to say sorry for that. Diba? I don't know you, diba? We're never gonna see each other again.
Yeah, sa online interaction, di
May
ba?
nabangga ka sa street.
Pag, pag may debate, hindi ka naman nagsasorry after. You
Ay,
just
sorry,
leave it
back
as
you
it
eh.
is.
Si Jepoy Dizon, nag-sorry ba siya ever? No. Kaya
Hindi
sorry
naman si Jepoy Dizon.
Jepoy
Di ba
Dizon.
yung bata?
Yeah. Did he ever make
Yung bata
Sorry
kinola.
Jepoy Dizon? I don't think so. If he did, I have to watch it now. But that's what's so interesting about saying sorry. Na merong dynamics of it. And it's not just you saying sorry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sa atin tatlo ba?
But
Did we ever say sorry to each other?
John just did.
I just did earlier, and every other time I was late.
True. That is true. You always say sorry for being late. And I don't think it devalues your sorry. It's just, oh, okay. Okay naman.
Just John things. Joke
It's
lang.
just
Why I'm trying to change for the first two podcasts, ako yung earliest aside from Kino.
promoting are we promoting that behavior by being so lenient?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, gets naman.
naging workspace, no?
But I mean, it goes back to, at least they're trying it. It's not like, nag-sorry siya,
Yeah.
tapos, who you na after. It's, he knows enough na,
Sorry ng sorry, pero late tayo.
oh, ba't ka pa nagsasorry? Alam mo naman, late ka. Ay,
Sorry, late naman.
sorry, late
Pero
pa
alam
ako.
niyo ba, have you seen the FB post dati? I think na-encounter ko siya dati na ang sabi doon, instead of saying sorry, say thank you for waiting for me or say thank you for ganyan. Alam mo yun, may mga ganong post.
Yung mga phrasing,
Anong-
phrasing.
Yeah, anong take niya sa ganon?
Naman both. Sorry,
I
I'm
think
late.
sorry, thank you.
Oh, di ba? Kompleto.
So, when are you, sa culture natin, when are you expected to say sorry? Or para sa inyo, when dapat nagsisay ng sorry?
Kanino? Yun yung question eh.
It's hard. You can't. There's no ano eh. There's
Yun
no
nga, sige.
general answer to that.
But
Okay.
it's a weird
Sa mga
thing we
people,
learn.
sa mga people na nagmamatter sa inyo, people who you put
Let's make it like this.
value.
Sa ating tatlo, when do you think you have to say sorry to the other person?
I think when you really diba, tayo we're really close. We're basically best friends, diba? So I think it's really when you do something so shitty to the other person, diba? What? Like, I don't know, binugbog mo si parang
Binugbog mo siya, tapos I'm sorry.
si Kino.
Habang binubugbog mo si Kino, I'm sorry
You deserve this, I'm sorry. But I mean, okay, no kidding, like laughing at it, but that's where a lot of problematic things come from, because it's a mixed signal where you're like,
Yeah.
you're doing bad things, but you're making it seem like sorry ka naman.
Sorry lang. So,
Pero ako sige, to answer yung question mo, feeling ko sa inyong dalawa, I'll say sorry yun nga, kung may expectations, tas hindi ko, na we all agreed upon, tas hindi ko na meet, it warrants a sorry from me, and alam mo yun, try to be better. Kasi, meron tayong usapan eh. So, alam mo yun, kahit hindi na pag-usapan, parang kung if it's expected. Kaya, yun.
that's I think that's where we find ourselves apologizing to each other the most, because like I think among us, parang there isn't really much. Walang issue eh. Diba? That's why we're friends, diba?
At saka I mean,
Issue na.
So it's yung issue lang sa atin, we can never meet up in person.
yeah.
That's always what we're apologizing for, diba?
It's always a
Sorry,
visual-
I'm busy, diba? Sorry, I'm busy on that day. I can't meet you guys, diba? Parang
Yeah,
ganun. That's really the only thing that we've been
Like, I'm
apologizing.
sorry,
Sa
I have to do
case-
something.
So
sa case ni Kino, usually bilang kami si Kino yung resident driver noon. So sa kanya nagsasorry yung ibang mga
sorry for getting you into this shit, no?
Wala namang
Or
nagsorry
sorry
sa akin
for-
ever nun ah.
Oh, shots fired. Sino yan? Sino yan?
Nobody, if I think about the driving thing, it
Yun mo na.
wasn't a thing to me. That I don't think anyone ever said sorry. And the one person who should didn't say sorry. So parang, I know, yeah, like John would say sorry if I drive. But I'm like, okay lang. No skin off my back. Kebs lang. Pero yung isa na
At saka ito yung naalala ko yun eh, parang kami pa yung parang, on this person's behalf.
Kayo
Sorry.
Actually, yeah.
What happened that time?
Tapos yung mabait pa naman kasama natin nun. Kaya siya pa nag-sorry, I remember, yeah.
Yeah. Kasi alam namin eh, kasi we're both drivers, we know. That's why we said sorry for the person. Para kami, wala. Ganun talaga, hindi as sensitive sa ganung bagay. So, on his behalf.
Kung ako yung driver, baka ako yung magsasorry. Sorry for my driving.
What makes you think, no? Can you say sorry
I am-
on behalf of someone else?
Dapat may signature.
May SPA, tangina.
Yung authorized representative.
No.
No.
I think,
Serious answer, no. For me.
pero yung, di ba, we did that nga, kami nung isa pang person, we said sorry for this person's behalf. It's more of, I think what we're trying to say is, hey, we understand that what happened was offensive and we're with you. Naintindihan namin na it's offensive and we can't, alam mo yun, parang, I think it's a form of dinadamayan ka namin kasi alam namin na mali yun. Something like that.
Yeah.
I think it helps, no. Pero I think ultimately that doesn't if it's serious, parang ultimately that won't fix things between you and that person. It might help, but parang I
It
think
will help. Siguro,
it
I
will help.
think it depends on the context, pero it might help grease the situation in some context.
Yeah,
Pero
I think it will make it
it's not
easier. It will make it easier for like the ones involved to to make up, diba? But I feel like they still need to parang it still needs to happen.
yeah, kasi
Parang
it's still
yeah.
between the two entities, not the one, alam mo yun, yung nag-sorry for the other person's behalf. Kaya yun.
Anyway, kailangan ko ng tubig. Teka lang. I'll
Huh?
be back.
Sige, go lang. Vamp tayo. So yeah, so that's why it's interesting about the whole thing. And I mean, there's also in relation to that, children. You don't really expect children to say sorry.
Really?
I mean, diba?
Well, kasi
Kung magulo
sa
yung
childhood,
bata, tas nag-sorry yung nanay, you're like, okay, Kebs lang, no worries.
pero kasi growing up, parang medyo dinikdik sa amin na
Na
as
dapat
kids na,
mag-sorry ka.
mag-sorry ka. Pag may nagawa ka, punta ka doon, mag-sorry ka.
Oo.
Kunyari ka.
Yeah, but that's
So,
usually, I'm sure, someone you'd know, someone you can go to.
yeah.
Pero kung nasa
Pero
outside
gets ko,
ka,
I feel like
gets ko rin yung sinasabi mo na side na parang, bata eh. So parang,
diba?
ganun talaga.
in
Nasa
that case,
mall ka.
Sorry.
in that case depende sa age, di ba? Kung sentient and hindi sentient. Kung thinking kung kaya na mag-communicate ang ang bata, I think it's good parenting din to teach them how to apologize. Ganon.
Yeah.
And it's also good parenting if they also apologize if
To
they're
them.
wrong. The parents.
true.
The kids.
As you said earlier, kasi some people in power, they don't like saying sorry.
Yeah,
In
akala nila,
med, medyo hindi nagsasorry sa med. Medyo stressed ako dun.
Yeah. I think napahapyawan natin to every episode so far, napapahapyawan natin yung mga ganito na yun nga, walang accountability, they don't acknowledge where they're wrong, and yung first step in actually saying sorry, or at least, di ba, parang,
Making it look
You
like you're
acknowledge-
saying sorry.
oo, di ba? Well, I guess, no, in talking about this, there's this hope inside, at least ako, I talk about this kasi I'm hoping na, alam mo yun, even as tumanda ako, mapangahawakan ko yung prinsipyo na yun. Kaya kailangan ko siyang ulitin sabihin to remind myself din na I should say sorry if I need to, or if may nagawa ako that warrants me saying sorry and actually doing better. Kasi let's face it, habang ang dali magsalita habang bata ka pa, pero as you get older minsan hindi mo na pa-practice what you preach eh. So ayun.
sometimes I think we won't sometimes diba parang you won't see na may what you're doing is wrong na pala, diba? Because like
Yeah.
and like diba sometimes parents, diba, ayaw nila diba? Parents, politicians, diba? They don't want to see not all, syempre, pero like sometimes when it happens, diba? It's because ang tingin nila sila yung authority figure, sila yung tama, diba? Sometimes they don't know what they're doing is wrong. And sometimes they're doing something wrong pero they think it's right.
Yeah, and minsan kasi I think important din, sige, kung pupunta tayo sa parent-children dynamics, minsan kasi hindi rin alam talaga ng parents na may nagawa na pala silang offensive kasi in their mind, they were just doing what they think is best.
Yeah.
Preaching moment.
Tapos na-offend na pala or may bad consequences na palang nangyayari dun sa anak. So, pag sumabog na yung situation, doon lang nalalaman ng parents na may nagawa pala silang mali. Tapos, syempre, di ba, ang hirap lunukin din yun na parang, shucks, nasasaktan ko pala or may mali pala akong nagagawa. Tapos, hindi ko na-address. Tapos, years na. So, minsan, it's either, ang effect nun, nagiging gina-justify ng parents na hindi, for your best, ganyan. Or yung iba naman, nata-down ng sobra. Tapos, or ganyan.
It's hard to recognize, no? Kung whether it's parents or the children. But if it's the children, it might take, diba? Baka they might realize na they'll only realize the damage that was done to them when they were much older. Also the
Yeah.
parents, diba? When they can't fix it or reverse it anymore, and it's difficult, diba? And it's hard to blame. I mean, sometimes you can blame maybe the very bad parents, but at the same time, parenting is hard. It's
Yeah.
difficult, diba? I'm not a parent, so I can't speak from experience, but basically, almost all parents they figure it out
As
as they
they're
go,
going through it.
diba?
And
As they
one,
go,
they're humans too. They're
diba?
humans too. So kung ano yung difficulties that we encounter,
There's no one
most
manual
probably they
or
encounter
course,
that too.
diba?
Mm-hmm.
There's no manual or course to raising children. There are ways to help, diba? There's no. I'm not saying na people who study like children's psychology, uh children's education, diba? Diba? Things like the family life and child development.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yung isang crush ko dati, FLCD. Baka
Isa lang?
ma-cancelled ako.
Sorry.
Pero, yeah. And ano yun eh,
My boyfriend siya. Shh, so don't. So, di ba? So, di ba? Like, but there's, yeah, kahit may FLCD, di ba? There's really no one definite way on how to, because children are people. They're different, di ba? Will be different, di ba? So you can have there are guidelines, di ba? There are people who can help, but for the most part, it's for parents, it's playing by ear.
yeah.
So mahirap.
But like tying it
And,
into... Sorry, go John.
ano yun nga eh, parang, so napupunta pala tayo sa parenting bigla, tapos wala namang parents sa atin, no?
Invite
Hindi
tayo
ko
ng
alam.
parents.
Si Diego pala, may mga panganay dyan na
It's
hindi
been more than
declared.
9 months with this pandemic.
More than 9 months, wala ako naman nakitang tao. 9 months
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
to me.
Siguro yun.
I influenced the midichlorians to create life.
Go John.
Yeah. I think, minsan, siguro, in situations wherein hindi mo talaga alam that you were offending someone, I guess wala kang magagawa eh, kasi hindi mo talaga alam. Pero once you were made aware of or you realize na may nagawa ka, I think I think kailangan mo rin talagang i-acknowledge. Hindi pwedeng mag-continue lang siya as it is. You have to be able to say sorry and actually try to do better.
Pero,
Kasi gets ko naman kung hindi mo talaga alam. Kasi, di ba, will you say sorry for something na hindi mo naman ginawa or at least hindi mo alam na ginagawa mo na pala? So, yeah.
I mean, to bring
I
it to
think-
an extreme, like in terms of not just parenting, but I was saying medicine, or we look at this pandemic, a lot of people in power, hindi yan magsasorry. Kahit pinakita mo na yung tweet nila from last year, ito sinabi mo eh, so you can't say na binan mo ang China for travel and whatnot. When sa kanila kasi, it wasn't wrong. Or for the worst part, this is the thing I don't agree with talaga. It's that the statement is wrong, but it's the best information we had at the time. Like, you don't get to be a dick just because you didn't know as much that then.
Didn't know.
Yeah, it's not a free pass to make mistakes if na-proved na what alam mo yun, yes, it was kunyari best yan yung best information available noon. Pero kasi na-prove na mali pala. 'Di ba? So it entails that you actually acknowledge it and say you were wrong.
Oo.
Kasi in the greater scheme of things, sige, kung mag-focus tayo on that timeline, nung present pa yung time na yun, sige, pwede natin sabihin, kasi ito lang yung alam nating information, blah, 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 which I don't agree rin kasi meron din namang may mga pandemic naman before na naka-escape tayo, like yung unang SARS, hindi tayo ganun naapektuhan kasi we did what was necessary,
You can't plan
di ba?
it. Hindi naman kailangan ng hard data eh. That's a
Yeah.
whole other issue with natural sciences. But like, yeah,
Yeah. So
Yeah, because we have like we have information from the other countries that are experiencing it. We have history. We have
or
yeah.
even like if you read up on stuff as an educated guess, a hypothesis,
yeah.
that's something new.
You don't have you
Saka,
don't have
di
to
ba, if
you
you're
don't have to
wise,
wait for a journal article to be published in a science
yeah.
journal, diba? By that
But
And
time
then
like
by
tsaka,
that time
even
people are gonna be dying,
yeah.
diba?
yeah.
It's too late.
And if you're wise, you won't risk it. If you're wise,
Yeah,
you'll do the
you'll be
smart thing.
prepared, diba? Ano ang mas importante sa inyo? The lives of Filipinos or the economy. Yeah, both are
Tapos sakit.
important. Both are important, pero 'di ba? We can it's possible to it'll be faster we will be able to recover from the economy faster, 'di ba? If we are not hit so hard from the pandemic, 'di ba? Eh ngayon, ano nangyari? 'Di ba? We are now in the worst economic recession since World War II or since the end of World War II. My
Yeah.
bad. No? And imagine, the country was destroyed during World War II.
Metro
Yeah.
Manila. Met
Kidding
And
me?
no, I think we have
No,
to
Actually,
not
address
just
it.
Manila, most of the country, 'di ba? Hindi lang sa Manila yung labanan.
yeah.
Yeah.
Americans were dropping bombs. Americans were dropping bombs and firing and artillery. Diba? The Japanese were burning towns. No, not just in Manila, but diba? And
The
people
whole
were
Philippines.
fighting. People were fighting over towns, diba, and cities. The country's infrastructure and economy was destroyed, non-existent. Basically, that's how bad it is. It's not. We haven't had. Basically, we haven't. I'm not saying it's as bad. I don't think. But definitely, it's not as bad, diba? Pero what
Okay.
I'm saying, what the headlines mean are we haven't the worst. Parang this is the worst since that time, diba? Na our the economy has tanked so bad that the only economic situation that was worse than where we are now was
During wartime.
during the devastation of after the that was during the
Yeah.
devastation of World War II. No, I think that's incredible. Diba? That's an achievement actually for this. So, 'di ba? They were probably worried about 'di ba? Tourism, 'di ba?
Mm.
The businesses, the economy, 'di ba? So wag tayong mag-lockdown, wag tayong mag-travel ban. What happened? 'Di ba? Because
Yung
now the
consequences ng
now the
action.
economy the economy is worse and thousands of Filipinos are dead or infected, 'di ba?
And jobless. Ang daming walang
And
trabaho.
jobless, diba? So, they managed to ruin everything, diba?
Yeah. And ang sad doon, wala talagang
Diba?
wala eh.
Did they weigh the risks? Apparently not. Or maybe they did and they didn't care.
I think we also have to address the way Filipinos treat adversaries. Parang ito nga, nandito na alam mo yun, kaya tayo nalulugmok pa kasi ang nangyayari, lugmok na nga tayo, hindi tayo nagde-demand ng accountability. Parang ang default response natin is, nandyan na magtulungan na lang tayo. Nandyan na, magganyan na lang tayo. So, yung people in power,
Magsuporta ka na lang sa gobyerno.
oo, they get free
Palpak.
pass. They get the free pass to just be. Di ba?
Suportahan ng gobyerno,
Yeah.
nagsasalita na ako na, ay, di ba dapat ganito? Di ba na tayo? How am I supposed to show my support? Di ba? I'm already showing my support by expressing, di ba? By expressing opposition.
Yeah.
Like ironically, like you might think that that's an oxymoron, di ba? Na I'm supporting the government by contradicting them, by opposing them. But when you think about it, di ba? How else can citizens quote unquote support the government, di ba? If they're doing something wrong, di ba? Or let's say, sige, even if we think they're doing something wrong, di ba? Or if we think, di ba? How do you mean by support? I already pay my taxes, di ba?
Yeah, totoo.
Support the government. I am supporting the government. We are all supporting the government, di ba? what is, di ba, what do they mean by that? Am I supposed to go on their Facebook pages and say, ang galing ni Tatay Digong? What? How's that going to support the government?
Yeah.
Going back to that, I think we mentioned, going back to government, di ba? I think we mentioned last time na ang mas mahalaga sa sorry, I think, is when it comes to institutions, ang mas mahalaga sa sorry ay we are making an effort to be better. Because sorry, mahalaga yan for individuals, like leaders in the government. Preferably, and in some cases, dapat may kasamang resignation yan. No? Not always, I think, no. But sometimes when you screw up, talaga, I think it's just it's a matter of
wala na yung confidence ng people sa iyo eh.
But I think it's not always. Do you think?
Yeah, I also believe not
resign?
always.
I think sometimes it's more irresponsible to resign.
To resign through.
Because you're
responsibility.
Yeah.
But it's the times where walang trust talaga ang mga tao sa iyo. So that's when you resign.
Yeah.
Okay, but
True.
ang problema kasi dyan is you begin to wonder kung gagalingan mo naman next time, babawi ka next time, do you even have to say sorry? Kasi if it's for your own self-benefit, it doesn't matter. Because I've felt this na you can just be better.
I guess depende na yan sa prinsipyo mo as a person. Pero ako kasi I truly believe na if may nagawa kang mali, na alam mo sa pagkatao mong mali, you have to acknowledge it. And I do it kasi one, I think it's right, and also may conscious, alam mo yun, yung konsensya mo aspect of it.
Yeah, parang kang action na tinake pa rin eh.
Oo. Yun nga, same with alam mo yun, it's the Marcos ulit. Parang sinabi nila na sige, corrupt siya, pero ang dami nga niyang ginawang mga infrastructures ganyan. Di ba? Does that
for me? It's important my acknowledgement.
Di ba? Kaya kailangan yung acknowledgement. It's important. Kasi kung hindi, kailangan talaga kasi kung walang acknowledgement,
Parang sinasabi mo na na malinis ang kamay ko. When in fact hindi. Di ba?
Sa mga magulang natin, walang acknowledgement.
Ay, hindi. Ano ba? Umabot kayo sa point na I had to actually talk about it with my parents. Like, yun nga, I remember telling them pa nga na I understand that what you were doing was what you think na best for us. Pero at the same time, you also have to acknowledge na lahat ng actions may consequences, good and bad.
And again,
I had to tell them na I appreciate it kasi ito yung good consequences sa akin. Ganyan. Enumerate ko. But, meron siyang bad consequences. At ito yun. Sinabi ko sa kanila yun explicitly. And ito yung effect ng mga actions na yun from the past sa akin. And it affected me for a lot. Kaya ganito yung, this is how I turned out kasi ito yung naging effect ng mga ganitong series of actions. Mga ganon. So after nun, yun naman, dun, I think, shocking din. Iba rin talaga, kasi nagkaroon naman ng communication, iba rin talaga for them na marinig nga yun from their kids. Kasi nga, in their heads, they were just really trying their best. And, diba, as we grow older, we know na yung mga adults, they don't have it figured out.
We all pretend we do.
And,
diba? So, kaya we understanding na tayo ngayon, na yung magulang natin, as they were raising us, hindi rin nila alam yung ginagawa nila at times.
Yeah.
Diba?
And it's and yun nga, it depends on yun nga, yung, diba, yung context it's context, diba? Sino sila, diba? And relationship, who are they to you, diba? Power dynamic, and also power dynamics, diba? What they have authority over you. And so, I think when it comes to dealing with parents versus dealing with, like, say, corrupt government officials, there are different dynamics nga there, no? Where corrupt government officials, diba, we are parents, diba, parents generally, diba, they're trying, diba, uh they're trying to do their best, diba, most of the time, not
I
always,
think
no?
the premise usually is they're trying their best. Pero sa mga institutions kasi,
Generally,
like,
it's diba, you were assigned there, you were assigned there, you were voted there, diba, uh so, and thousands, if not millions, of people are counting on you to do your job right, diba?
yeah.
So, iba ang dynamic, and iba ang expectations, no?
At iba rin yung scale.
Yeah.
Iba talaga.
So yeah, and the syempre yung makapareho in the sense na parehong may consequences, 'di ba? And but yun nga, different ang scale, iba ang scale no ng consequences.
Yeah.
So you have to consider that.
Pero like, kasi, with that aspect of it, mahirap, maybe because for us, it's a cultural thing, mahirap is separate these aspects or dynamics from it eh. Like, as much as we want to say, ganito kasi, so you say sorry, and they're trying their best, so you say sorry, the whole package, as I was saying earlier, at the end of the day, it's the whole package that still leads an impact to us. Kahit emotional man yung pagka-insulto, physical, o masyadong personalan, it's hard to separate it talaga. And with that, it's hard to separate na kung this aspect of it, okay lang, tas hindi mo kailangan mag-sorry. Pero yung isa, damdam na, tangina mo, ba't mo sinabi yun? Diba? It's not as simple as, ganon, I'm sorry, tapos.
So, relative siya, physically, no?
Pero yun nga, I think it's important lang din talaga to say sorry regardless of the effect. Kasi it's the least you can do, I feel like. Kasi in the case of bullying, may times kasi na, alam mo yun, bata kasi kayo nun eh, kaya hindi alam ng bullies na may effect sila na ganon. Pero yung na-bully, 10 years niya palang dinala yung effect sa kanya ng bullying. Pero yung nang bully, during that time lang niya, parang tumanda siya nang hindi niya alam na may isa siyang person na 10 years pala niyang naapektuhan. Na meron siyang binuli na hindi makatayo sa stage, may mga hindi nagagawa dahil sa nagawa niyang action. So, alam mo yun, kung nalaman ng bully na yon yung effect niya, yung sorry niya ba, mababago yung 10 years na yon na naapektuhan yung nabully? Syempre hindi. Hindi mababago yon. Tapos na eh. Ito na yung effect. Pero, yun ba, the least you could do is acknowledge that you were wrong. Kasi hindi mo na mababawi yung effect eh. Hindi mo na mababawi yung 10 years na, kunyari, marami ng missed opportunities si nabully na for that past 10 years na hindi mo na maibabalik. Pero kailangan mo pa, alam mo yun, pero since aware ka na, mag-sorry ka and be better.
But
I
that
think
sorry, go Ultra.
I think, yeah, I think for some people that's the case, no? Na I think it might help some people, like bring closure, 'di ba? And maybe maybe to rebuild yung or I don't know, right, hindi, even if they don't associate with each other anymore, 'di ba? Para at least you know that now they know they were wrong. Like what you mentioned about about parents. Sometimes when parents are wrong, diba? The damage usually by the time that the children and the parents realize that something went wrong, diba? That the damage is already done.
Nandun na yung effect.
But and actually almost in most personal interpersonal context, ganun, di ba? The damage is already done. You can't undo the damage, but you can start yung recovery or yung healing, di ba? With that, with yung acknowledgement na mali ka, and that you're apologizing, you're willing to make up for it. So, those things,
It kind
di ba?
of, I would think, the two perspectives would be, yes, the apology will help the healing, pero hindi rin siya kailangan. Like, if you think about it, you can frame it kasi as moving forward from that event. That person does not define that uh, issue. Kasi if you look at it, is it then, is the problem still with that person? Like, alam mo, never ka magkaka-sorry from them. Ibig ba sabihin nun, never na magkaka-healing? Hindi rin eh. You can start to
Ano,
frame
yun,
it as saying
Yeah, I mean,
sorry to
I'm
yeah,
not.
I think,
yourself.
yeah.
I think hindi. It's not that ano, kailangan mag-sorry to begin healing. Pero but it's more like ano, you don't need it doesn't need to happen pero it helps,
It
'di ba?
helps. Hindi, tsaka if ano, like if you're the offender, once na nalaman mo, I think it's important na you acknowledge it kasi nga alam mo na eh. Tapos ako, sige, sa case ko, as someone nabully noon, ako, hindi naman nag-sorry sa akin yung mga nag-bully sa akin. Pero I came to a realization na, hala, ano na pala ako, ilang years na akong naapektuhan nung mga pangbubuli sa akin nung bata ako. Ang unfair naman na hindi na nga sila aware na nabully pala nila ako at ganito kahaba yung effect na hanggang college na apektuhan ako. Tapos binibigyan ko pa sila ng more power over me kasi paralisado pa rin ako. So parang bigla ako nagkaroon ng switch sa thinking ko na hindi ko na sila bibigyan ng power ng hold over me kasi hindi nila deserve yun. So
Yeah.
hindi sila nag-sorry sa akin pero yun yung naging road ko to recovery na naging mas confident ako, ganyan. Kasi yun nga, nagkaroon ako ng ganong realization. Pero kasi hindi lahat ng tao may ganong realization and yun nga, sa case ko, hindi naman na-realize nung nang-bully sa akin or at least we've never had that conversation na alam mo yun, hey, nabully mo ako, ito yung epekto, ganito yung ganyan. Kasi hindi naman usually nangyayari yun eh. Pero yun nga, once na I hope na kung ikaw man yung offender kung sa isang case, kung ako yung offender sa isang event, I hope na makapag-apologize ako for it. Parang ganun.
For me, I think yeah, parang the offending party parang you don't need for many people, diba? You don't need, diba, like bullies, diba? Like you don't need for them to apologize, diba? For you to move on and heal. But diba, if that happens, it's always nice, diba?
Yeah, if that
It's always nice
happens,
if that happens and
Yeah,
it
agree.
it can improve, diba? It can improve your well-being and also yung relationship mo with other people, diba? Uh, and diba, not just with the parang say for example bullies, diba, yung former bullies mo, diba? But uh parang it's just parang parang mas magiging mas wholesome yung ano yung uh
yung narrative.
outlook mo. Parang like I think you'll have parang you won't be when you think about let's say the past, diba? It won't hurt
As
as much
much.
anymore. Like even if you've moved on, parang when you go back to those days, like yeah, I've moved on. Pero when you look back to those days, parang you don't want to look back at those days, no? Pero let's say pero kung if there's an apology, diba? There's a healing between the healing, not just the personal healing, but diba, the healing between the people, between two people or
The
more.
parties, yeah,
Diba?
involved.
It will be less painful to look back, even though like the damage is already done, diba? You won't have to have as much pain anymore when looking at the the hurt that they've caused you in the past, because now you know that, diba, they've fixed we were able to fix you were able to fix things, diba?
Mm.
Not really fix things, pero you were able to get you were able to come to an understanding, diba?
Mm. Na alam
Na
niya rin na may nagkamali siya. Alam mo yun? Na
yeah,
hindi minsan kasi
closure, basically,
yeah, saka
diba?
minsan alam mo yun, na-affirm din na oo, may
Confirmation na
maling nagawa sa'yo. Kasi minsan hindi, alam mo yun, minsan hindi mo rin alam kung may mali na bang nagawa sa'yo talaga. May mga ganong instances din eh. But basta, Kaya yun.
But if we look at it, we're still discussing at the level of personalan. We're looking at things na, oh, dapat nag-sorry siya because you have a personal relationship with them, whether it was bully sila or
Basta
fighting
may
with the elder.
magkilala
Yeah.
kayo. May relationship, some relationship.
Kasi like there's an aspect to it, like medicine, especially when you see with this pandemic, as the information changes, wala naman ever nag-sorry for information that's proven to be wrong or hindi pala siya yung best outcome. You never hear someone say, "Oh, I'm sorry we gave you that treatment. It was a mistake." And I think like we've talked about it this past hour and so, but a lot of it comes from kasi this idealism na bawal magkamali. Magkamali.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have a doctor who makes mistakes. Say, why would you go to a doctor na nagkakamali, di ba? Pero, there's an aspect of it that even if you don't have a personal relationship, they were big enough to own up to their mistake and say sorry for it. Now, for treatment, it's kind of more confusing. But when you have things like the pandemic, na hindi magsasorry for, at this point, misinformation, di ba?
Yeah.
I guess it also acts sort of maybe into how once it's on the internet, it's on the internet forever. So things may change, and in real life, you would have forgotten about it. But because of Twitter, you can just search it in a snap.
Yeah, and at the same time, naalala niyo yung mga statements, may mga statements kasi na ginagamit yung mga tao sa internet na may mga position kasi or may mga roles sa buhay na sadyang bawal ka magkamali. Or mas mataas yung pressure. Di ba may mga ganong statements like against PNP or against sa DOH, parang, kasi nandyan ka so hindi ka dapat talaga magkamali kasi ang laki ng bigat ng pagkakamali mo. Di ba yung mga ganong statements na lumalabas sa internet? So, I think, kasi to some extent, I believe nga, na yun nga, may times talaga na hindi, as much as possible, hindi ka talaga dapat magkamali kasi mabigat yung responsibility mo. Pero pag nagkamali ka, what do you do? Parang gano'n. Kasi at the same time, nga, bawal sila magkamali. Pero at the same time, may human aspect din kasi.
Well,
na, alam mo yun, human error. Well, hindi naman kasi tayo perfect talaga in that way.
I think when we're talking about like big institutions, government institutions, who's, diba, where when they make mistakes, it could cost many lives, diba? I think that's a point where, diba? Yeah, in some senses, in some ways, diba, parang bawal sila magkamali. But I think that makes it all the more important for them to make sincere apologies when they do wrong. Diba?
Kasi yung epekto mas malaki.
Yeah.
Yun nga
And that's where dapat kasama that, diba? Like earlier you mentioned na, diba, we never get mad at you when you're late, diba? Kasi chill, we're just chilling, we're just friends, diba? It doesn't really matter, diba? But when it's a government institution, diba, where now kung maling information ang pinalabas nila,
late yung pag-order ng
the weight of the consequences are literally lives, di ba? That's where, di ba, parang hindi lang okay, basta next time wag next time wag pumatay ng inosenteng tao, di ba? Di ba? It's not like when John is late for a podcast, di ba? So in that case you have to ang kasama dapat kung may yung, di ba, nag-apologize, dapat kasama ang commitment to be better, di ba?
And I think, as we're saying, when it's these institutional levels, it forms, parang role model's not the right word for it. It forms an acceptable behavior at least. So, and then sometimes, as we'd say, you don't get the sorry, you don't get the correction.
Yep.
If you have someone saying, papatay ko ng tao, And people just hear that. It's like, oh, it's fine. Even if he says sorry for it, parang it's out there. And like the internet, it's gonna be there forever because the influence is so big. So you're like, oh, tangin na, patay tayo ni innocent na tao. And that's not a good thing that
Yeah.
we allow at the mere basis that they don't want to say sorry for it or correct it immediately. Maybe
Yeah.
because of institutions, but I guess we all know in our specific case the toxic masculinity that exists as in these institutions.
I think tawag dito, what I did earlier when I was expressing doon, that was my attempt at humanizing them pero not exempting them from accountability. The thing is, kasi ngayon, yung may movement within like social media na they are, alam mo yun, kaya may mga statements na, matanda na kasi si tatay, pagpasensyahan na, ganyan-ganyan. May ganong type of humanizing para bigyan mo ng grasya. Pero kasi as Diego mentioned earlier, pag nasa ganong position ka, mas dapat nga expected of you to be accountable to your actions.
Diba?
Na yes, we acknowledge na tao ka, pwedeng magkamali ka. Pero pag nagkamali ka, hindi dapat grasya na. Kasi
Diba?
Oh,
Di ba?
ganyan.
Matanda na siya. Ay, kung sobrang matanda na siya na he can't form coherent sentences.
Bakit to lead?
Bakit siya presidente?
Bakit siya nag-lead? Di ba? Parang, kaya
Pwede
nga
ka naman mag-resign. May vice-presidente naman.
kaya nga tayo may succession structure na pag hindi ka
Yung iba ayaw sa vice-presidente, di ba?
So,
Kung wala din yung vice-presidente, may chain of command yan. Di ba?
yun nga, may tayong
Succession.
So parang,
Designated survivor.
I mean,
Survivor.
for those who are very supportive of the government, yes, we acknowledge that they're humans. And they may and they have and they will make mistakes. Pero kasi, yes, we acknowledge na that's a possibility. Pero hindi dapat yung pag-humanize sa kanila, hindi dapat yung tipong nag-end up na awa lang or understanding lang. Kasi hindi lang buhay nila yung nakasalalay. Bansa yung nakasalalay sa mga decisions nila. So yes, pwede sila magkamali. Pero that doesn't mean na exempted sila sa consequences ng actions.
And it's scary
All
that it
about-
applies to more than one country. At a
Naman. For sure.
Them.
For sure.
Should apply to all of them.
Sige, para hindi tayo maging political, kahit hindi naman yan sa bansa, with any institution in general. 'Di ba? Kahit anong institution pa yan, basta leader, laging ganun iba yung bigat ng mga decisions. So, yeah. So I think napahapyawan natin yung personal and even yung institution and even national mga scale.
Unless dictatorship ka or absolute monarchy, di ba?
Yeah, yun nga. And in the first place kasi, yung premise ng government natin or premise ng system natin is democratic. Hindi naman tayo under ng, alam mo yun, explicitly sinasabi na dictatorship yung type of thing na meron tayo or authoritarian. Hindi naman nakalagay kasi democratic tayo. So,
But
Diba? Kung ayaw nila yan, di ba? Kung ayaw nila ng accountability, di ba? They should stop calling themselves a democratic government.
oo. Eh di, sabihin na nila.
a dictatorship, like by the formal definition kasi, you say a dictatorship is like a political system where the one ruling power, blah blah blah. But if I think about it now, if we're applying it not just to governments but to all sorts of levels of groups, ang dictatorship can be a soft power pa rin eh. Not that in you control everything, but people are afraid to speak up. Meron kang groupmate na diktador, di ba? Meron kang kaibigan na makikinig lang sa kanila. And it's not an explicit dictatorial setup, but it fosters that same environment.
Concepts of dictatorship, authoritarianism, democracy, words like that, they don't have to apply only to states. and
Yeah.
and large institutions, political institutions, or even economic institutions. It can apply to groups, di ba? Not as uh, formal institutions or formal, di ba? Formal systems, but as, di ba? As uh, it can be, di ba? The dynamics of the group, the group dynamics. The
The
dynamics of
ratio of the
the
group.
group dynamics. Pinaliktad ko lang eh. The
Yeah.
so a group, any group, 'di ba, or any relation, well, it's difficult to say kapag like just interpersonal na dalawang tao, pero 'di ba, groups, organizations, communities, 'di ba, even if wala silang constitution stating that they are a
Yeah.
democracy, 'di ba, dynamics of the group, the way they are organized, the way leadership, or not just leadership, but 'di ba, the way people interact with each other, 'di ba, it can be, you can describe it as with these, 'di ba, with these concepts, no, these supposedly these political concepts, kung tutuusin, no.
Yeah.
What are we talking about? What are we talking about?
Saying sorry is complex.
Yeah,
It's very
Yeah.
complex.
Say,
complex,
sige.
relative.
Try
Alam
natin
mo,
yan.
it's so simple eh. Saying sorry. Everyone should know how to do it. But when you think about it, it's so nuanced in how
Mm.
we deal with it talaga.
Mm. Ano siguro sa akin, it's good, it's a good practice to know when to say sorry and to actually do it. Kasi yun nga, as we grow older, we assume different leadership positions in our lives, ganyan. And as we are saying, sometimes pag mas tumataas na yung position natin or yung leadership role natin, mas expected nga sa atin yung accountability. So, kung hindi mo kayang mag-sorry or take account, maging accountable sa actions mo sa personal level, how much more pag nandun ka na sa, alam mo yun, institution level, nasa
Yeah,
mataas ka
yeah.
ng leadership role. So, I guess I'm just stressing out the importance of, yun nga, knowing when to say sorry and what to do after saying sorry. Kasi
Which is
it
still
defines,
part of the sorry.
it's still part of the sorry. So, yeah, I think yun yung lahat ng pinag-uusapan natin even sa mga podcast before. Kasi yun nga, we acknowledge that we're humans. Even yung mga leaders natin, like parents, like government officials, bosses sa companies, etc. Lahat sila tao, pero magkakamali sila, pwede sila mag-say ng sorry, pero yun nga, may consequences. So, I think na-establish naman natin siya, and it's a good thing.
Yeah. It's
To
also important to talk
remember
about
it.
sorry. Like as Ultra mentioned earlier, kasi there's still the sort of stigma that saying sorry is a sign of weakness, or as John said,
Yeah.
pagiging kumbaba, like being humble with it. It shows you this power other people have of you because they have the power to
Mm.
accept your sorry. But it's not that so much. I mean, it is, but it's also an aspect of saying sorry is about the interpersonal relationship, whether with someone else or with this emotional standard you keep yourself by. Kasi
Yun yung prinsipyo mo. Ganun.
prinsipyo. Diba?
Mm.
It's not, and it's interesting how we can go through life as children saying sorry to growing up na what does it mean to say sorry? Kanina ka ba dapat mag-sorry? And you have these sorts of discussions. Okay, if anyone wants to
Yeah.
add, there's chat for it. That's why I always feel like this is a good thing to stream also, because everything to an extent is a cultural aspect. It is a choice somewhere in society to shape and form these behaviors of saying sorry to certain things, of saying sorry to certain people. And yeah, it's not as simple as it looks.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially
Definitely.
kung ibang tao pa.
Nothing ever is.
If only we started on the joke.
Sorry na nga,
See,
guys.
so, nag-sorry siya. So sa amin, okay na yan. Nag-sorry ka na eh. Wala na masakit siya. Nag-sorry ka na.
Yeah. Ano, sige, ang sabihin ko lang, may tiwala ako sa friendship natin na
Yes.
inaccept niya yung sorry ko. So, wow, binawi! Ganda
Sorry,
ang
but
ganda
parang no.
naman namang tinyahan ko.
Yeah. Ano,
Yeah.
final words na tayo.
Too late to say sorry.
Is it? Oh,
It's
yun.
never too late.
That's, in the
Love is
words
never
of
too
the
late.
Mr. of the
Yes,
Beans.
to answer Kino's question.
Is it too late
Is
to
it
say
too late
sorry?
now to say sorry? It's never too late.
Never too
But
late.
you're not
Never too
exempted
late.
from the consequences. But it's never too late.
Never too late. To 10 years, pag sorry sa'yo, okay lang.
Yeah.
Death
Okay
bed.
lang.
Mamatay
Okay
na siya.
lang.
Sorry, Paps.
Actually, depende rin yun eh.
Pero yun nga, it doesn't, yun nga, it doesn't
For some
accept-
people, some things are so bad na it is too late.
Namatay
Yeah.
yung somebody. Tapos,
So-
'di ba? Magso-sorry ka ba na mali yung nagawa mo?
Mm.
It's too late. Wala na eh.
Or, depende. Yeah, some things, diba? So, is it too late to say sorry? Maybe sometimes.
Always sometimes.
That's how we're gonna.
The safe answer is, has always been, depends on the context.
Depende. Depende po yan. Depende po yan sa
Points lang.
tao.
Okay lang. Too late. Too
Kasi
early.
iba-iba ang mga tao eh. So, it's about understanding and being open to understanding different people.
Mhm.
Oh, sige, let's flip
Yeah.
the question. Can you say sorry too early? Preventive sorry ka. Parang, sorry pero may mangyayari ngayon.
Sorry, malilita ko.
Sorry, malilate ako mamaya. Sorry. Diba, there's also, is it too early?
Well, sa case na sorry, malilate ako mamaya, I think that's valid.
Yeah,
At kasi nga, alam mo na malilate ka eh, so kaya ka nagsabi. Diba?
warn ka na eh.
No. Oo. Pero, malilate ka pa din. Alam mo yun?
So, preemptive.
Malilate ka pa din. At least alam lang nilang malilate
In
ka.
advance kung kung if I do something bad to you. Ganun.
Sorry in advance.
Siguro ano na lang.
God, fuck you. Diba?
May ganun ba?
Siguro sorry in advance kung it might be managing someone's expectation. 'Di ba? Usually parang ganun siya, you manage someone's expectation. Like yun nga, may usapan tayo kanina, sabi ko, sorry.
At the same time, nagmumukhang premeditated yung event eh. Parang alam mo na
Okay.
mangyayari siya, so sorry na lang. Hindi, wala kang, kumbaga, what you were saying at the start of it,
I think okay.
kinorek
I
ka
think
ba
it's
nun?
okay. I think it's okay, 'di ba? When you know that you can't do anything about it anymore.
Yeah.
Things like malilate ako or
Yeah.
di na ako makapunta. Diba? And I only realized now na
Yeah, I think yung saying sorry in advance, again, it requires relationship. Na yun nga, may trust, like
yeah.
I hope you trust, alam mo yun, you guys trust me naman na kaya ako na-late kasi out of my hands siya. Alam mo yun, hindi siya something na, ay, 9 o'clock na, ay sige, pa-late ako. Parang alam mo yun, parang nagpabebe lang na,
Pero
Pero
ginawa
Ibang
natin
problema
yan.
na yan kapag for example, job interview tapos sasabihin mo, sorry, I'm late.
di ba pag ganun, ibang ano siya, ibang ano rin. So, yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. Again, everything, it's relative. It
Everything
depends.
has
It's relative, it depends on the context, it depends on the relationship, the balance, the power structure, or the relationship in general. The
Because
structure.
it's a personal, because
It
it's
depends
because
on
it's
a lot of
interpersonal and people are different. Diba? So,
Hindi
Yeah,
siya-
we can't give one definite answer.
Hindi siya sorry lang. Kumbaga,
So ang ano ay we should make an effort to be sensitive to people, diba? And try to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But also understand, but also know about diba, when also try to know the gravity of yung situation. So again, diba, earlier we talked about governments and holding them accountable, diba? And of course, it doesn't only apply to governments, diba? So, diba, kahit smaller organizations, diba, smaller groups. So it's about, diba? It's actually it's actually a nuanced and complicated process, diba? And it's so interesting that we do it. The process of deciding, diba? Did I do something wrong? Should I say sorry? Should they say sorry? Should we be should when should we hold them accountable? Diba? That's something that we all do, diba? We all do it just in our heads, diba?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
good to voice it out. When in doubt, voice it out.
Mm.
Say sorry. If
And siguro, para lang din, to address lang din yun nga, kasi sabi ni Kino na may culture din kasi tayo na bawal magkamali. So, I think, yun nga, in some aspect, minsan bawal magkamali, pero at the same time, nagkakamali kasi talaga tayo. So, yun nga, saying sorry is something you do when nagkamali ka. Parang ganun.
So, sorry guys, but I think that's it for now.
Yeah.
That's a good
That's
a good R30 pa rin. I mean,
Yeah, it was a
solid
good,
length.
it was a good discussion.
So,
Thank you guys for waiting for me.
let's rephrase it. Hindi sorry, but thank you for the opportunity to take part in something with you guys na cutting it early just leaves space for more conversations next time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Naibawi.
Bawian lang to.
Next week seems exciting.
Next week, we'll be talking about music and dance. So,
Damn!
sample mga dyan, handa nyo na yung performance nyo pang Christmas party. Tapos yung gaganyan. Song and dance number.
Let's get some fun guests next week.
Let's try to get
We'll
some.
try. We will try.
We'll try. Yeah,
Mm.
music and dance next week. We'd like to
Okay.
say thank you to our wonderful, wonderful co-hosts, Mr. Ultraelectromagnetic Pop, Ultraelectromagnetic on Twitch, Jago over here, and we have John of Just John, hashtag Just John Things. Tonight's topic saying we want to thank our people in the chat who were there, both lurkers and non-lurkers. You're all welcome here. You're all welcome to chat, ask questions, and everything. So I'm gonna stop recording here. Thank you so much for everyone, and we'll see you next week on Bakit Nga at 9 p.m. GMT plus 8. Basta Hong
Yeah,
Kong,
GMT plus 8.
Hong Kong, Singapore time.
GMT plus
9 p.m. Right. Time to stop.
Good night,
streaming.
everyone.